The road was quiet, just dust, wind, and the low sound of an old truck moving through the edge of the desert. Daniel Hale was used to driving alone. He worked far from the city, fixing relay towers and weather sensors across abandoned routes. To him, silence was comfort. But that day, silence broke in a way he never expected. It was late evening when he saw her. A small figure walking along the side of the road, her steps slow, her head lowered. She wore a pale gray cloak that barely reached her knees, and her boots were covered in sand. At first, Daniel thought she might be a traveler whose car broke down. But there were no tire marks, no broken vehicles nearby. Just her, alone. He slowed down and rolled down his window.
"Hey there, you okay?"
he asked. The girl turned her head. Her eyes were bright, almost too bright under the fading sun. She looked no older than 15, maybe 16. I'm lost," she said softly. Her voice trembled. "Please, I need help." Daniel stopped the truck and got out. "Where are your parents? You from one of the nearby towns?" She shook her head. "No town. I don't remember where I came from." Something about her words made him uneasy. People didn't just forget where they came from. But she looked exhausted, her face pale and frightened. He opened the truck door. "All right, hop in. Let's get you some water and figure this out." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded and climbed into the passenger seat. Inside, the girl sat quietly, her hands folded on her lap. Daniel offered her a water bottle. She took it, sipped carefully, then looked at him. "Thank you, sir." "Name's Daniel," he said, trying to sound calm. "What's yours?" She paused like she had to think about it. "Lyra," she said finally. "All right, Lyra," he said, starting the truck again. "Nearest town's about 30 miles away. We'll stop there and talk to the sheriff. Maybe someone's looking for you." But Lyra didn't answer. She just stared out the window at the endless stretch of sand and rocks. As they drove, Daniel noticed strange things. Lyra didn't seem afraid, just curious. Her eyes followed the horizon like she was seeing the world for the first time. When they passed an old comms tower, she leaned closer to the glass, whispering, "So that's how you send signals?" Daniel frowned. "You don't know what a signal tower is?" She looked down. "I don't remember much," she said again. They reached an old rest stop by nightfall. Daniel parked near the small diner that still had power. The owner, an older woman named May, greeted him with her usual tired smile. "Evening, Dan. You brought company?" "Found her walking along Route 14. Says she's lost." May glanced at the girl. "Sweetheart, you hungry?" Lyra nodded shyly. They sat at a booth and May brought them some soup and bread. Lyra watched the food as if she wasn't sure what to do with it. Then she began eating, slow and careful like she was studying the act itself. Daniel couldn't help but feel protective. Something about her was fragile but not weak. Her eyes had that kind of quiet strength, like she'd seen things no child should see. After dinner, May called the sheriff's office, but the line was dead. The storm outside was getting stronger, cutting off signal lines. "You'll have to wait till morning," May said. "You can stay in one of the cabins out back," Daniel agreed. Lyra followed him to the small wooden cabin behind the diner. The wind howled against the windows and the lights flickered. She sat on the bed looking at the old radio on the table. "Can I ask something?" she said softly. "Sure. Why did you stop for me?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Because that's what people should do. Help when someone needs it." She studied his face for a moment as if memorizing his words. "Not many do that anymore," she whispered. He chuckled. "Guess I'm old-fashioned." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept hearing faint sounds like footsteps outside, too steady to be the wind. Once, he thought he saw a shadow move past the window. When he checked, there was nothing there. Just the empty desert under the full moon. Morning came with a strange silence. The diner was closed, the air heavy. May was gone. Only the wind moved. Daniel stepped outside, confused, then froze when he saw the footprints. They weren't human. Long, narrow, and shaped like something walking on 3 toes. He hurried back to the cabin. "Lyra, we need to—" She wasn't there. Her cloak lay folded neatly on the bed, and on the table beside it was a small metallic disc glowing faintly blue. He picked it up. The instant he did, his vision blurred. Images flashed before his eyes. Lyra standing in a room filled with strange light. Voices speaking in a language he didn't know, and something that looked like a ship above the clouds. He dropped the disc, gasping for air. His heart raced. What was she? By afternoon, He decided to drive toward the town anyway, hoping to find help. But when he reached the road, his truck stopped. The engine cut out without reason. The lights flickered and a static voice came through the radio. "Daniel Hale, you have passed the first phase." He froze. "What?" The voice continued, calm and emotionless. "Your response to distress was genuine. You provided shelter, food, and protection to a non-human entity. The test continues." The static vanished. The desert went quiet again. Daniel sat there, gripping the wheel, his mind spinning. Non-human test? Was this a joke? But deep inside, something told him it wasn't. The memory of Lyra's eyes, too bright, too knowing, flashed in his mind. That night, he camped by the truck, unsure of what else to do. The stars above seemed sharper than ever, almost pulsing with faint light. He stared up at them, whispering, "Lyra, who are you?" In the distance, a faint hum echoed across the sands, like engines whispering from the sky. And though he didn't know it yet, Daniel was about to learn that helping a lost girl had changed his fate, and the fate of humanity itself. Daniel barely slept that night. The strange voice on his truck radio kept echoing in his head. "You have passed the first phase." The words made no sense, yet they filled him with both fear and curiosity. When dawn came, he stood beside his truck and watched the sunrise burn over the dunes. The air was still. There were no footprints, no sign of the girl he had helped. Only the metallic disc lay where he'd dropped it, half buried in the sand. He picked it up again, more careful this time. The glow had faded, but when he held it close to his ear, he heard a faint humming, almost like a heartbeat. He placed it inside his pocket and whispered to himself, "If this is a test, I'm going to find out who's giving it." Daniel started walking toward the old comms tower he had repaired a week earlier. It was 15 miles away, but if he could reach it, he might be able to send a signal to the nearest base. He had a feeling this was bigger than anything local law enforcement could handle. By midday, the heat was brutal. His canteen was nearly empty, yet he kept walking, each step crunching in the sand. Around noon, he noticed something glinting ahead. It wasn't a mirage. It was a shape half hidden under the dunes. As he approached, his breath caught. It was metal, smooth, curved, and shining faintly with a blue pulse like the disk. He brushed away the sand and uncovered what looked like part of a small ship, but unlike any Earth design. Its surface was seamless, and strange symbols ran across it like living lines. Then he heard it, a familiar voice. "Daniel." He spun around. Lyra stood a few meters away, her cloak gone, replaced by a simple white outfit that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Her eyes glowed softly, no longer trying to hide their strange light. "You're alive," Daniel said, relief flooding his chest. "Where have you been? What is this place?" She looked at him calmly. "You weren't supposed to come this far yet. But your actions changed the order." "What order? What's going on?" he demanded. She stepped closer, her voice gentle. "It was a test, an evaluation. You were chosen because your world is being considered for contact." Daniel frowned. "Contact? You mean aliens?" Yes," she said, not unkindly. "I am not from your planet. My people have been observing humanity for many years. We study kindness, trust, and compassion, qualities that are rare among the stars." Daniel took a step back, the words sinking in. "So you were testing me? Pretending to be lost?" Lyra's expression softened. "Yes. We wanted to see how a human would react when faced with something they didn't understand. Many would have ignored me, or worse, but you helped. Without fear, without reason. That is why you were chosen." He shook his head slowly. "You could have just asked. Would you have believed me?" She asked quietly. Daniel couldn't answer. The truth was, he probably wouldn't have. She extended her hand toward him. "The test isn't over yet. There is something you must see." Despite the confusion in his heart, Daniel took her hand. The moment their palms touched, the sand beneath them began to tremble. The metallic structure nearby hummed, rising slowly from the dunes. It wasn't a wreck, it was a ship. Sleek, silent, alive with faint blue light. Lyra looked at him with something like pride. "You are the first human to set foot aboard an observer vessel." The ship opened, a smooth ramp lowering. Daniel followed her inside. The air was cool and clean, and soft white light glowed from the walls. Everything seemed to move gently, like it was breathing. "Your technology," Daniel whispered. "It's like nothing I've seen." Lyra smiled faintly. That's because your world still hides behind its own walls of fear. We see what you can become. They reached a round chamber where images floated in the air, scenes of Earth, cities, oceans, storms, wars, and acts of kindness. He saw people saving strangers, children feeding animals, doctors working through the night. These are your people, Lyra said. And we have watched both your light and your darkness. Daniel's throat tightened. So what happens now? You've seen enough, haven't you? Lyra's voice grew serious. My superiors believe humanity is unstable, too dangerous to be part of the interstellar community. They wanted to end observation and classify Earth as a risk. He felt a chill. And you? I disagreed, she said softly. That is why I conducted this test in secret. I needed to prove that goodness still lives among your kind, that someone would help without expecting reward. Daniel looked at her, realizing now how much had been at stake. You risked everything for this, she nodded. Yes, but now they must decide based on what they've seen through you. Before Daniel could respond, the chamber lights dimmed. A deep voice filled the air, calm, ancient, and echoing. Subject 047H, evaluation complete. Lyra bowed her head. Counselor, I present Daniel Hale of Earth. The voice continued. Human subject displayed empathy, courage, and moral consistency. Probability of cooperative behavior, high. There was a pause. We will allow contact. Daniel exhaled slowly, unsure whether to feel relieved or terrified. Then the voice added, However, the subject's memory must be altered to maintain the timeline. This event cannot yet be known to others. Daniel's stomach dropped. Wait, what? No. You can't just erase. Lyra turned toward him, her face full of sadness. I'm sorry, Daniel. It's part of the protocol. The universe is not ready for your people to know us yet. He took a step back. You said I passed your test. Doesn't that count for something? It does, she whispered. But knowing what you know would put you in danger. I wish there was another way. Daniel's chest tightened. Then tell them to take me with you. Let me remember, Lyra's eyes softened. Maybe one day. She raised her hand and the glowing disk appeared again, floating between them. Its light grew brighter until it filled the chamber. Daniel felt his body grow heavy, his vision blurring. Lyra, he whispered. Don't forget me, her voice was gentle. We never forget those who choose kindness. And then everything went dark. When Daniel opened his eyes again, he was in his truck, parked near the diner. The storm had passed. The world looked normal. No ship, no footprints, no Lyra. Just the open desert stretching endlessly. For a long moment, he sat there confused. He remembered driving, finding a girl, helping her. But the rest was a haze, like a dream fading too fast. He checked his pocket and found nothing but sand. He started the truck, unsure what else to do. But as he reached for the radio, something caught his eye. On the dashboard, faintly scratched into the metal, were 3 glowing letters. He froze, staring at it as the hum of the engine filled the silence. Somewhere deep inside, he knew it hadn't been a dream. As he drove toward the horizon, he looked up at the sky. A bright light flickered far above, moving fast, too fast to be a plane. He smiled faintly. Goodbye, Lyra, he whispered, and thank you. Above the clouds, an unseen ship faded into the dark, its pilot watching Earth one last time before vanishing into the stars. And though Daniel never remembered everything, a quiet warmth stayed in his heart, the kind of memory no test could erase.